The Laundry is proudly produced by Strise, your AML automation software for faster onboarding, smarter monitoring, and growth without overhead. Tomorrow, the one thing we all can do, even if we work on the legislative side, the technology side, just be more open-minded, stretch out a hand, even if it's to competitors, get everything a step forward together.
Yeah, I think we should forget the word competitors. Let's be frenemies instead. So.
Welcome to The Laundry, the podcast connecting AML, compliance, and financial crime to the real world. And we are coming to you from AML Arena in Helsinki. Please make some noise, Helsinki! Yes, and this is your chance to catch up on everything that happened today. So we are wrapping up the day at Finland's biggest and best event for AML, where we've heard from expert speakers across banking, fintech, payments, consultancy, law enforcement, and academia. We've been soaking up this knowledge like sponges, and now we're ready to share with you. We will be discussing everything that happened at AML Arena. And I'm here then with a panel. So welcome Christian Elkjær, third-party risk from Dun & Bradstreet, and Juuso Palasau, business development manager from SOC. Welcome to The Laundry, both of you. Give our panelists a welcome. We are on a tight schedule, but before we dive into the recap, can you explain in 2 sentences about you and your work?
Yeah, well, I can go first. I'm Juuso Palasau. I work as a business development manager in S Group, which is Finland's largest retailer. I'm part of the payment services team, so it's our responsibility to accept payments, whether it's POS terminals or e-commerce channels. And as you may know, wherever money moves, there's always criminal activities involved, unfortunately.
And my name is Christian Elkjær. I work in Dun & Bradstreet, which is a data and analytics company. It's a global company. I work in the business advisory organization. So basically, we are a lot of subject matter experts and solution architects that are supporting our customers in what we call Northern Europe region, covering all the 4 Nordic countries, the Baltic region, Iceland, and actually also Greenland, which is, if you don't know, it's still part of like Denmark.
All right, welcome. Let's dive in. So I just got to start off with just asking you both, like, what was your favorite session today and why?
It's really difficult to pinpoint just one.
You got to pick one.
I won't. What I want to say is my key takeaway for today is that in a lot of the discussions that we had today was the importance of partnerships, like both private-private, public-public, and public-private. And from the retailer's perspective, I have been talking quite a lot with, for example, Finnish banks and authorities recently, and we have seen that each one of us sees certain sides of different phenomenon. And it's really great to see that there is a consensus amongst everybody that sharing is caring.
Yeah, and we will get back to also the partnership because I actually also noted down a quote, which was that in some areas the collaboration is a bit chilly between different jurisdictions. So we'll get back to that. But what was your favorite, if you had to pick one session from today?
I think I liked the last one, which was about betting. And it's more personal to me because I also like football a lot. But in recent years, I think it has been more and more like, it's not nice to see what's actually happening in football, the amounts of money being moved around, weird transactions when we see sale of players and so on. So it's good to see that maybe something is happening within this area. Someone is starting to look at it because it does look suspicious.
Yeah, I agree. And for those just listening in, the session before this was ended with watching some footage from the 2014 FIFA World Cup. And one might ask if that match was fixed or not. It definitely raised some questions. So I agree with you. It was kind of eye-opening. And the complexity of the networks presented as well. But when you've been talking around the coffee machine throughout this day, what are people talking about? What are the topics that keep coming up?
What I've been hearing today is actually very positive in the sense that the most of the people I've been talking to today, we more or less want to achieve the same thing. We have different, you can say, ways of looking at it. Whereas I'm looking at it from a data perspective, others are maybe looking at it from a platform service perspective, someone looking at it from a legislation perspective and so on. But we actually all want to achieve the same thing. And I think that's very positive. And then it's probably more looking into how can we collaborate around that even more than we do today.
Yeah, and I also noted down a quote from the talk from Olaf, which was, the criminals don't expect us to collaborate, so let's. But we have talked about this collaboration, sharing data for years, but how do we do it? What do we do different tomorrow to get there? What should everyone in the audience think about when they get into work tomorrow to push that forward?
Yeah, I think a lot of us have to have a big responsibility in looking into how we can collaborate. I know that we as a company are looking at that both from, you can say, collaborating even with our competitors, looking at how can we together, because we all have the same customers, you can say, that are facing the same issues. Can we, when we go together, can we form an alliance and go to the legislation makers and help them understand how we look at the issues and how our customers are having issues getting the data that they are obliged to get.
True.
Yeah.
Actually, a good point. And I think that's a good thing to kind of bring with you from that day as well to everyone here, is that, okay, maybe some of us are competitors, but the goal is so much bigger than all of us. So just tomorrow, the one thing we all can do, even if it's even if we work on the legislative side, the technology side, just be more open-minded, stretch out a hand, even if it's to competitors, get everything a step forward together.
Yeah, I think we should forget the word competitors. Let's be frenemies instead. So
Also a good key takeaway from today. But I heard some buzzing around the coffee machine around the talk on terror financing space, and there was some, eye-opening scenarios for on that too. I don't know if you guys were able to catch that talk.
Unfortunately, not. But I also heard some discussions about that. But throughout my career, I have seen and heard some stories where the imagination and the amount of imagination that they use to finance their evil acts, it's just plain amazing, I would say. So we just need to be more imaginative.
Yeah, bring the creativity into the space. Just be creative as well. How about you?
Yeah, but I think it's the same as we need as a data provider to look how can we help? Can we obtain new data sources than the ones that we are obtaining today? Can we maybe collaborate together with some of the other speakers we have seen today? We saw Quantexa showing that they can combine, you can say, third-party data providers, data with, for example, transaction data and so on. And then they can start looking at data from another angle, maybe combining legal ownership structures with, we can see that some of these companies are also doing transactions with other legal structures. Are any of these connected? Yeah. Concerning address, family, whatever, then we can start connecting the dots and receive the flags that you need to do this kind of enhanced due diligence.
Yeah, because it is quite imaginative. People setting up businesses in the sole purpose of doing terrorist financing, receiving funding, but it's just to kind of do that. It's quite imaginative. One of the other talks that I've heard a lot of buzz around from the coffee machine is the ever topic of culture of compliance. And it was a talk from Danske Bank. I've heard people talk about it. And I thought that one is also just so important because even in this day and age of AI and technology and you can automate, the one thing that technology won't do for us is build a culture. So the technology can't walk around in the office talking to people and bringing in that culture of compliance and making people aware of different things. So for me, that was also a very good talk today.
Yeah, that was really inspiring. And from the retailer's perspective, I guess many in the audience might imagine, what does compliance have to do with retailer? You sell stuff for consumers. But There are, once again, I'm going back to imagination. So there are a lot of quite creative ways where, for example, insiders in certain financial institutions might have been helpful for certain individuals to make arrangements to fraudulently purchase electronic goods, etc. So the impact of lack of compliance and the lack of culture, it doesn't have impact only on the financial institution. It shows off all around the real world.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when we talk about that you need to have you can say it's all about change management. We often talk about that when we talk to our customers and then they want to buy our data or our services and then they say, but then everything is fixed. And then maybe they ask, how fast can we integrate this data in our system? You can do that very fast, but what takes time is actually doing the change management afterwards, because who should be allowed to actually approve this data in your system? Who should use the data? What kind of decisions should you make when you get a change of ownership? And on all of this, and that's actually what is the very difficult part. Also, just you can say convincing your employees that this is very important, because if they don't understand the value and the importance of what they're actually doing, then I don't think they will end up doing a very good job. So I think that's very key when we talk about this.
Talking about the culture of compliance, do you have any, like from your work or from today, just some very tangible tips and tricks to our listeners and the audience on how to go about building that culture of compliance?
Well, I would emphasize talking with each other within your organization, not staying in your silos. That's really, really dangerous, because compliance and AML, fraud awareness, everything, they shouldn't be thought as individual responsibilities. Everybody should know at least something about them. Everybody should be aware, no matter what is your role in the organization.
And I think you can also see it as an opportunity for your business. At least that's what I'm seeing when we talk to customers within the financial industry. You can actually use it as a competitive advantage, that you can speed up. If you're very good at this, you can speed up the onboarding of customers if you do the compliance check in an automated way compared to maybe some of your competitors that gets annoyed if they need to do a lot of manual stuff and they need to wait for approval and so on. So I think that's one of the things that you can also think about, that it's basically try to change it around and see it as an opportunity also for your business.
We've also heard today about a lot of different new threats popping up, even more, cyber-enabled money laundering, cyber-enabled crime, fraud. We had the talk on the betting industry, but were there any kind of new threats or something that you are very worried about after today?
Well, I guess AI is on everybody's mind these days, who wouldn't think about the threats. Somebody mentioned earlier today that AI can be used to trick ID document verifications. So I think that's a really tangible threat. And to be honest, I believe that we have already been hit by such threats. We just probably don't know it yet.
What's some of these emerging threats that worry you that we heard about today?
Yeah, I think also cybersecurity threats and AI is probably one of the high ones up there. We're also seeing a lot of new legislation. And I think from our side as a data provider, what we actually see as some of the biggest threats and some of the most difficult tasks that we're looking at is specific markets that closes down, for example, outside Europe. We could have an example of China, for example, that decides to maybe want to exclude all beneficial owners from the registry if they are sanctioned. Then we can get beneficial owners, but we don't get the ones that are sanctioned. And then the data is probably not that much worth anymore, right? So those kind of topics, we're really into that and saying that's a threat and we want to try to see how we can solve that.
Yeah, that's very true. It doesn't help to get benefit, you get all the beneficial owners except the ones sanctioned.
Yeah.
So it doesn't get you that far. I think for me as well, just from the gambling talk, you could see the complex network of businesses and owners, and just in general here in the Nordics, that's a very relevant topic because you see how advanced organized criminals are becoming across borders. I mean, we're in Finland, I'm from Norway, you talk a lot about what's going on in Sweden, but it trickles down into our countries as well. And I heard this last week. It's just anecdotal, so I don't have the evidence or anything to back it up, but it was someone from the Norwegian police who told me that in Norway, there was, of course, fake VAT refunds going out. And there is no cleaner money than money from the Norwegian tax authority, right? And a payment from the Norwegian tax authority went out into a business, and it was fraud and money laundering in the same transaction because that payment was actually then a setup for paying for a large narcotics import. So yeah, it's I think that is one of the threats that I'm kind of worried about, and it's just so complex to get a grip of.
Live on stage at Venue 81 in Stockholm!
Want to energize your next event with something truly unexpected? Live on stage from Shoreditch Studios in London. The Laundry Live brings financial crime and compliance to life on stage with laughs, insights, and a healthy dose of drama. Live on stage at the Ministry of Sound in London. From packed out venues to intimate in-house tapings, we've done it all. A live recording of The Laundry is the perfect way to engage your audience and bring fresh energy to your agenda. Stockholm, please make some noise! We love hitting the road, so if you're planning an event, why not add a little podcast magic? Email us at laundry@strise.ai to get started. We'll bring the microphones, you bring the crowd. We'll continue the discussion over pizza afterwards. I'm interested to learn more. We also, of course, there is no AML conference without touching upon the regulations. So, I mean, where to start? What's your take on that? Too much, too little, too complex? Is the industry involved in actually setting the regulation, or is it just top-down?
I think at least we're seeing to a higher degree that the industry is being asked to a higher degree about these topics from the regulators. Probably still not as much as we would like to, but we are seeing a shift where we are getting, you can say, talking time with the legislators, which is very positive. I think whether or not there will be more legislation, the answer to that is very simple. It's yes, we will see more and more and more legislation. We're seeing it within other topics than AML that will probably be a bit mixed up in the future. At least that's what I think. So we have a lot of legislation within the ESG area, within cybersecurity and so on. And I think what we will see in the future is that a lot of these stuff will actually impact each other.
Yeah, and I would like to go a bit on the side track here, because it's not just about regulation in regards to AML. We have a lot of new regulation coming in Europe, especially when it's coming to retail payments. What kind of stakeholders are involved? For example, now we have been talking about payment independence and payment autonomy and account-to-account based payments. But do we really have all the relevant stakeholders involved in those discussions? Those are really bank-centered, but are we forgetting private citizens, consumers, merchants? And then we have legislation coming up, for example, digital euro. I know that the European Central Bank would definitely not want to see digital euro being used for money laundering, but to be honest, the criminals have always found their ways before.
Yeah, so, they're imaginative, as we talked about in the beginning.
Yeah, so they need to be seen as a complete package. They shouldn't be looked at as individual things happening in silos.
Are you hopeful about AMLA, collaboration with AMLA, all these things? Like, what's the talk around on that?
Well, there's this anecdote amongst Finnish banks. I've heard this same from several banks that whenever they catch a money launderer, and when the money launderer walks to a competing bank across the street, they can't warn the bank. So I'm really hoping that that will change in the future.
We did hear some quite inspirational stories from Estonia. It seemed like the private, public private-public partnerships were making some great strides there. But then describing then the collaboration between Estonia and Finland, then it was more like, okay, that's chilling. We're not there yet, that we're able to bring those partnerships across the different jurisdictions as well. But do you think everyone should do like a field trip to Estonia to learn a little bit more about how partnerships are being done there, or?
I think that could probably be interesting. I think from our side, in recent years, partnerships has been one of our key strategic areas, basically. So we can see that our customers cannot, you can say, solve their issues maybe solely with our data, but if they combine our data with other technology and so on, they can probably go very far. So we are looking very much at partnerships, and there's also some of the speakers today which we are already partnering with. So this is becoming more and more a strategic topic, I think, for a lot of us.
All right, we are nearing the end of the session, but if we're busy, or the next AML Arena date for next year is already ready, I've heard. It's in March. So when we are here again in March next year, what are you guys expecting to be the biggest talking points that hasn't been featured today, if any?
Recently, I've been reading quite a lot about agentic commerce. So AI agents doing payments on behalf of us. I'm really interested that when will we see, sooner or later, when we'll see AI agents actually laundering money, or agents frauding other agents. So that's a new phenomenon that we will definitely need to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
The pace is just really amazing.
Then everyone until next year should then be thinking about being imaginative and think about all the ways it could not only be used for good, but also by criminals, so we can come up with proper defenses. So yeah, homework until next year. How about you? What are the things you think we didn't talk about in this year's conference that we will talk about next year?
Yeah, but it could be some of these other legislation. So we are seeing DORA and NIS2 legislation, which talks into bank and finance industry, understanding their cybersecurity risk. I think that has also, you can say, an overlap with some of the topics we have talked about today. And then I think what we have talked about today, but I think will be even more in a year's time, is crypto transactions. Because as we also heard today, this is probably still quite immature when we talk bank and finance sector in the Nordic region. But I also believe that it's probably not something that we can avoid or want to avoid. So it will be interesting to see how that has been taken on in the Nordic region.
All right, let's see in March then, if you guys, if the predictions became true. But ending it with a more like personal question. So why does the AML work we do matter, and like what gets you out of bed in the morning and do your job?
I think from my perspective, it's very like deeply rooted in myself, and I think in the Nordic like tradition that we are decent people and we don't want to support like criminal activity and terror and these things. So I think if we can help avoid that, if we can set up procedures, if we can get the right data to avoid these things, that I would sleep well at night, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's quite self-evident. We're the good guys fighting evil. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Okay, before we close out the show, I'm going to ask everyone to do a very un-Nordic thing again to make some noise. So this is more about getting the temperature from the room about how confident are people about, I guess, the next 12 months or until March next year. So the question is, how confident are you feeling about the future of AML? Do you feel equipped to do your job? So if you do feel equipped to do your job for the next 12 months with AML, make some noise now. Or if you're feeling a bit down, the prospect of new regulations, new regulators, cyber threats, terror financing, SAR reports, and AI agents, if that makes you feel a bit stressed, make some noise now. Okay, so it's like 50-50. We are hopeful about being the good guys, but also see the seriousness from the threats. But that brings this spin of the laundry to an end. Christian, Yuso, thank you so much for joining me. If people want to connect with you and continue the conversation, where can they find you?
LinkedIn.
Yeah, the same for me. You can also just contact me and my colleagues here in Dun & Bradstreet. Be happy to talk.
And I think everyone should, because as we talked about in the beginning of the episode, reaching out a hand and not being competitors but frenemies and extending your network across the compliance industry is one of the key takeaways from today. So if you've enjoyed this episode, you can go check out the back catalog of The Laundry. We have done more than 120 episodes, so there should be something in there for everyone. And The Laundry is proudly produced by Strise. We build AML automation software, and see you next time. I'm from Norway. It's super cringe, but we'll make it sound much better. The Laundry is proudly produced by Strise, your AML automation software for faster onboarding, smarter monitoring, and growth without overhead.